Hello everybody, it is Raider, and I'm back with a video today talking about the comic industry, pretty much. Just want to let y'all know, if you like the video, please be sure to like and subscribe, share it with your friends, and also leave a comment. I like to hear from people. I'd like to hear from y'all, and if you got any critiques or anything about the video format, or how I do the channel, or just the issues that I talk about, tell me, because that just helps me improve the channel a bit more, and I can make something that you guys can really enjoy. That's the whole purpose of all this. But anyway, we're getting back to our little deal with comic books, and we've got Dan Slott. For those of you who don't know Dan Slott, he's done a couple of comics. I'm not sure if I have ever read much of Dan Slott, because there's been 10 years of my life that I have not read anything from Marvel that has been new. I have not bought anything really new except maybe one graphic novel that was Deadpool, because I did like Deadpool, and it was fun. But finding a fun comic within Marvel is very, very, very hard. It's used to, Marvel was like fine wines. You know, you go back issues and long boxes, you'd find something you would like, and very rarely would you find a month that was bad. Now it's like I don't even want to look anymore. Going to a comic shop, it's just depressing. I go inside and they give me this look like, anytime I do find a comic shop, because there's almost none of them in my area, every time I do find a comic shop and I walk in, they look at me like, are you going to the back shelf? And I walk in, I go, you got any Conan and long boxes and back in the day? Oh, yeah, I guess you're not going to buy the new stuff, are you? I'm like, no, not really. Would you? No, probably not. I've actually had that conversation with a comic shop owner one time. They actually asked me, "You're not going to buy any stuff in the back?" Like, would you? No, not really. So I was like, well, what do you expect? But anyway, let's get into this little tweet here from Dan Slott, because there's a lot here. There's a lot of lies here, a lot of misinformation, just outright lying. Anyway, from Dan Slott, got a lot of concerned in quotation marked accounts explaining to me how putting out one comic a year, charging $25 to $50 per issue, getting tens of thousands of backers to buy multiple copies while using a model that circumvents the retailers is somehow the best thing for the comic book industry. Bullshit. Sorry about that. Anyway, a lot of concerned accounts. I don't see anyone concerned. Probably this is kind of like one of those little nips at concern trolling, which is just, as Myers say, the mean girl thing. I don't know why people, I think it's just the copious amount of soy these guys take in, all that estrogen. They start acting like chicks. So they're kind of like I think it was Diesel in The Longest Yard, when Goldberg starts switching out his steroids for estrogen pills. And he starts acting like a woman. My nipples hurt. That's what I think of when you're going to look. You did a real good job out there. That's just the best. That's the nicest thing I've ever seen. This is what I think of when I hear Marvel pros doing the whole concern trolling nonsense and bitching on Twitter. Y'all could just be making better comics and out and just killing the industry. Y'all used to do it, but you can't do it anymore. So anyway, we're talking about putting out one comic a year. Okay, so here's the problem. The one comic that is going out is outselling most of Marvel's in that month. You're throwing a conniptious fit about something outselling your crap. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on here on Twitter saying anything. You would forget about it and go on. It's kind of where, let's see, Thanos walks in and Scarlet Witch goes, "You killed my husband." He's like, "I don't even know your name." It's just like, you're not a problem for me to deal with. If it wasn't a big deal, you wouldn't be on Twitter bitching about it. But let's go to the one comic a year. And let's go with probably one of the first comics that was ever put out by anyone within even any remote of the new Indiegogo movement. Jawbreakers was about 3 comics in one. It's a graphic novel. It's not a comic book. It's not a single floppy. And they were good and meaty issues. There's a lot of things that went on. They were action-packed. But the fact that you're calling a graphic novel, mind you, Marvel puts out graphic novels. They put out large graphic novel books that are comprised of multiple floppies. The fact that you're saying that's a problem, charging $25 to $50 per issue, let me explain something. You charge $25 to $50 a graphic novel for comics that people have already seen. Myers charged $25 minimum for a book of stories that have never been seen by human eyes. Okay? By that fact alone, that he is putting out 3 never-before-seen comics in one book, where you are now putting out 3, 4, 5 comics a book that have already been seen by people, the fact that his have never been seen before jacks the value up already. But he's still maintaining the price at about the same amount that you're putting out your cheap mass production graphic novels that aren't even collectible, mind you. You just buy the darn things, so you've got an anthology or a complete story or some bullcrap like that, which is amazing in my opinion. But as I said, we wouldn't be throwing this much of a fit if Myers and Ethan Van Sciver and everyone else weren't just kicking your ass right now. Getting tens of thousands of backers to buy multiple copies. Well, yeah, that's how a comic book sells. You need multiple people to buy it. The idea on selling something is all streams become rivers and all rivers become lakes, become a big lake. And the idea is, a $50, $25 for a comic book, especially for like 3 of them in a graphic novel, doesn't sound like a whole lot of money. But the concept here is that's one little drop that comes down, and it collects with a whole bunch of other little drops, and they make a stream. And then there's all these other little streams that are collecting everywhere else. And so those couple of streams will come together and they'll make a river. And then you've got more rivers coming in. Before long, you've got this nice big lake of money. That's just coming in. That's the concept of business, selling any kind of product. You need to sell a lot of that product in order to make a decent amount of money. As usual, Dan Slott seems to be missing a lot of points of the entire industry altogether. He doesn't seem to be very self-aware of the industry, because this is what you want to do. You want to sell a product at the maximum amount of money possible that'll still be able to sell the largest supply that you can push or move. Here's what I'll say. You want to move the largest amount of product for the largest price. Yeah, I could sell a graphic novel for $1 with 3 stories, and I'd move a whole bunch of them. But if I can find a balance between the two in which I can increase the amount of money per book, but decrease the amount of product moved to a point where it's not even where it's kind of negligible. And I think $25 a pop, $25 a graphic novel is actually pretty good. Also, at $50 per issue, another thing I just realized, $50 an issue, some of these, I bought the $50 one. I got like a poster and all sorts of cool stuff that came with the book that nobody else got. I think mine actually got, I bought it because I wanted it signed, and then I found out I got a Zashi poster with it, and I was like, damn, I got a Zashi poster. That's pretty damn cool. Anyway, some guys were selling stuff with t-shirts in it, and hats, and stickers, and bumper stickers, and all this other crap. So, I mean, they actually monetized pretty dang good. Showed some pretty good entrepreneurship. But here's the part that really gets me. While using a model that circumvents the retailers is somehow the best thing for the comic book industry. Okay. If I may not watch all of the Comicsgate and Indiegogo comics, because there appears to be some sort of rift between the two of them. I'm not going to get into that. It's not important. But I may not have kept up with a lot of the other campaign. I may not follow a lot of the other campaigners. But Myers is the one comic guy that I do follow pretty heavily on YouTube. I try to watch as many of his videos as possible. And I remember when Myers came out and said, "We got Antarctic Press is going to produce Jawbreakers," and I was ecstatic. I was like, dude, I love Antarctic Press. I used to have a bunch of Gold Diggers. On my phone, when I got the Comixology app on my phone, the only thing that I actually bought at the time was freaking Antarctic Press Gold Digger comics. That was all I bought. And then my phone broke and I lost everything. So, but anyway, you're sitting here you're sitting here saying that this is a model that circumvents the retailers. This is kind of like how a lot of times, it's like with Cali guns. For those of you who don't know what a Cali gun is a firearm that normally should look regular. But to give you an example, take an AR-15 for instance. An AR-15 has a magazine catch, and you just push a button and drop the removable box mag. It's also got a pistol grip on it. With a Cali gun, because of the laws in California are designed to make life difficult for gun owners, the rifle in question, like your AR-15, cannot have a pistol grip. It has to have a stock grip. So, and then it also can have a magazine catch, so it has to have some sort of tool that requires you to use a tool to take out the magazine. So, what happens is they end up creating Cali guns, which have these features on them. And sometimes a modification for California can translate over into a better weapon, can transfer into like a better gun or a better product. For example, California at one point outlawed the 50 caliber. You couldn't have a bullet or armature. In other words, the thing that comes out the barrel. You couldn't have one of those over 50 caliber. It had to be under 50 caliber. So what happened was someone went out and produced the 338 Lapua. Well, they didn't change the amount of powder behind the 338 Lapua. So it's a smaller bullet, but with a 50 caliber charge of powder behind it. What ended up happening was you had a bullet that was actually able to hit targets at greater ranges than a 50 cal and still maintain anti-material capability on that ammunition cartridge. So basically what this is you and your buddy Wade, Dan, went out there, tanked Meyer's Antarctic Press deal, which I wanted Antarctic Press to do Jawbreakers. That never happened. That was like a dream come true for me, and it never did happen. But Mark went out there and screwed that up. So what happened? Myers innovated. Y'all thought he was just going to quit and give up. Myers turned around, innovated all of his concepts, created and figured out how Indiegogo, really looked at Indiegogo really hard and said, I think I can make a pretty good business work on this. And now you're pissed because you're sitting back there, a company that's bloated, that's old, that's inefficient, and now a newer, more automated, efficient company has come out here and is starting to downright beat the crap out of you in terms of sales at times. Okay? Indiegogo comics are not producing 5 or 6 different variant covers just to sell books. Okay? You and your buddies are out there pitching a fit about Vampirella having Ethan Van Sciver make a variant cover, and the variant cover is probably going to sell like hotcakes if it hasn't already. I haven't seen it in stores. I haven't seen anything about it. But dang, you're sitting here saying that you use a model that circumvents the retailers. The problem here is there's no other model that's available. This model you have no control over. And that's the only way someone can take an Indiegogo comic and go anywhere with it. You're expecting people to come in there and do comic books in an old-fashioned way, and people are now proving there's a newer, better, more efficient way of doing comic books that doesn't require some crazy idiot at the top whose only concern is the right politics being represented and damn the stories. And that has been the problem with this entire industry. And now you're pissed because you basically, to quote the bad guy in one of the A-Team movies, you squeezed too dadgum hard and something happened. Okay? People finally had enough and they said, enough is enough. We're sick and tired of doing this crap all the time with you. We're going to make our own industry. What was it? # we are building a spaceship. Right after Myers came out and told everyone this had happened. He was like, hashtag we are building a spaceship. It's like, we're getting out of here. Everyone started sending in Death Star memes. That's right after it. It was awesome. But you're mad because you have basically squeezed the independent creators out there and people who want to break into the market. And you squeezed them for so long that they finally said, enough is enough. We're not giving you our money anymore. We're going to produce something that we want to pay for. Something that we want. And unfortunately, your response to Myers trying to get into the industry has now caused a market or a strategy or a business model that is now circumventing the retailers. The retailers, if I was a retailer, man, I would be fucking pissed at you. Because now that you've done this, I'm losing out on a lot of this money. I can't get these comics because a crap ton of people are going to come over and start harassing my business afterward and try and get it shut down. This is the stupidity of what kind of nonsense that you guys are running. It's terrorism. If you want to look at it, it's terrorism on your business. Sort of like a softcore version of terrorism. Yeah, you're not killing anybody, but you send enough mean tweets to someone, they'll think their entire business is coming under attack. They'll think they're going to be starving on the streets before it's over with. You want to take the retailers and you want to hold them hostage on everything, fine. But basically what Myers is doing is the same thing, what is the movie, Speed? Where Keanu Reeves in there with not Daniel Day-Lewis. Who is that other guy? I don't even remember. And anyway, the bad guy is holding him. It's his superior officer. He's holding him and he's looking at Keanu Reeves. He's like, yeah, what do you got to do? And his officer looks at him and goes, shoot the hostage, man. Myers is just shooting the hostage just to get to his goal. You sat back there and you're holding a gun to a person's head and you're like, this is the retailers. You don't want to hurt the retailers. Finally Myers just had enough and said, okay, fine. Boom. Shot the kneecap the retailer, just took off past you. Like, screw it. Just blowed through you. And you are the reason that this has happened. You and Wade and Heather Antos and all the little psychos that are on Twitter right now. All the little retards that are on Twitter that are sitting there mouthing off every time someone does something, calling it a scam. I mean, Ethan Van Sciver is now shipping out Cyberfrog, and they're still calling it a freaking scam. Okay? It's been called a scam for years. Ethan Van Sciver probably has made almost $1 million. He sells his next book, he is almost going to guarantee make $1 million independently in this business in probably less than 3 years. I would say going on 3 years. I think he'll hit the $1 million mark in 3 years is what I'm thinking by looking at it. But anyway, yeah, you're the reason we have this better model that's probably going to circumvent the retailers. But retailers could jump on this. They could sell these other Indiegogo books. They could sell the books that we like to buy. And maybe it would probably save their little businesses. Anything that sells would probably help them out. The problem is most of them can't do it because you'll send an entire mob of assholes over there like Wade did in our AMP just to keep something from being sold half the time. I mean, here's the thing. We know that you're afraid of this new model. And you're afraid of this new industry. Or no, this new model that's now affecting the industry. Because if you weren't afraid, you would do this like an actual champion boxer. You'd step up in the ring, you'd let Myers walk in, you'd knock him the fuck out, and you'd be done. Okay? Well, Myers couldn't cut it. We knocked him out. Instead, you do everything possible. You basically, I'll tell you what, even better example. It's going from, like Rocky versus Apollo. If Rocky thinks he's good enough, bring him in here, I'll knock him out. And he basically takes Rocky down. Basically fights Rocky and wins. To Tonka Shaw versus Andy Warski, where Tonka Shaw is doing everything in his power not to get in that ring, and does everything in his power to keep Andy from getting in that ring. And when it all finally comes down to it, y'all are pretty much a no-show. You don't want to create, you don't want to innovate. You're lazy. And You've been doing this political run so much that you've forgotten what good stories look like. You've forgotten how to make good stuff. That or you just don't have a very good editor. I have no idea. But anyway, folks, I have ranted. Damn, this became a long video. I hope I didn't bore you people with it. If I did, be sure to critique me in the comments, folks. Like, subscribe, and share with all your friends if you agree with it. And as always, be safe, y'all. I'll see y'all in the next video.